Good morning, fourth graders. This is Mrs. Griffey. I am going to be working with you this week on expression. So if you take a look down at the bottom here, we're going to be focusing on expression, anticipation, and mood when we read. We use different tones of voice to express different feelings or moods. People can figure out ahead of time or anticipate our mood from clues such as the look on our face or how we are standing. Then, when they hear our tone of voice, they can tell whether they were right about how we are feeling. So, I want you to think about the tone of voice that you use every single day. If you're excited, what does that sound like? If you're mad, what does that sound like? What facial expressions do you make? How do you use your hands when you're feeling happy or sad? Think to yourself, what tone of voice would you use to tell about a sick pet? Well, if a pet was sick, I know for a fact that I'd probably be pretty sad. So my tone of voice when I'm talking about that pet would probably be quite sad. What tone of voice would you use to tell about a funny movie? I would think that that tone of voice would be happy because you would be excited and you would think it was funny, so you might even be smiling. So, what we know is that authors will use these moods in their writing too. Readers can anticipate the mood the author is using by looking at clues such as titles, pictures, first sentence, and punctuation. As we read, we confirm or we correct our prediction about mood. We change how we read to fit the mood of a piece. This makes the reading sound right and make sense. Today I'm going to be reading you the story Island Life. So let's just take a look at our title here. I'm going to highlight it in yellow. Let me just change my color. There we go. Island Life. So when I think about island life, that right away makes me think possibly about an experience of maybe where people are living. They're living on an island. This is a narrative about a family's experience. I'm going to look for some clues that are going to help me to anticipate the mood of the text. I'm going to read that first sentence to you. It has been 15 years since the storm destroyed the ship and left the family on the deserted island. So I know that this family experienced a shipwreck based on that first sentence. I'm going to go back and reread it and highlight it. It has been 15 years since the storm destroyed the ship and left the family on the deserted island. That is a scary and serious thing. I expect that the tone of the piece is serious, so I'll continue to use a serious voice as I read. I'm also going to pay attention to whether my prediction was right. If not, I may have to change the tone of my voice to a different tone, so please be listening for that as I read. It has been 15 years since the storm destroyed the ship and left the family on a deserted island. At first, life was hard. It took all the Bartons' ingenuity and courage just to survive. Ultimately, however, they were able to create a way of life that was better than the one they had had before. They learned how to build houses, grow food, make tools, and create games. They also learned how to enjoy one another's company, delight in a cool breeze, and savor a sunset. Now, after so many years, sailors have found the island and the family. They want to return the Bartons to their former way of living. They hold a meeting to decide what to do. Grant, the youngest, makes the decision for them. He was only a year old when the shipwreck occurred, and the island is the only home that he has ever known. But Grant wants to leave and try another way of life. We have nothing to fear as long as we're not apart, Grant insists. We must realize that we have not only survived, but we have also become one. Knowing that nothing can destroy their closeness, the Bartons prepare to leave the island. Okay, I'm going to go back and I just want us to think about, as we were listening to that passage, did you notice the change in my voice? Did my tone of my voice as the mood in the story changed? So we know that in that first paragraph, I'm going to change my color of my highlighter here. In this first paragraph, it's pretty serious, correct? So we know that as I was reading that, my voice should have been quite serious, maybe even concerned. But then the rest of the paragraph from here on down tells about positive things of how they survived on the island. They became closer with one another. They learned how to enjoy one another's company. They enjoyed being out in the cool breeze and they enjoyed looking at the sunset. That paragraph went from being somewhat kind of scary to an exciting time. Do you agree? So we could say that the mood in the story started to shift. It became a little bit lighter. It wasn't as serious. I'm going to go back and reread to you this last paragraph. I'm going to highlight that in right here. This paragraph right here. Follow along with me as I read and really just focus on the mood. Okay, I'm going to read the last paragraph in some different ways. We're going to discuss each of these ways and decide whether it fits in the mood of the paragraph. We have nothing to fear as long as we're not apart, Gran insists. We must realize that we have not only once survived, but we have also become one. Knowing that nothing can destroy their closeness, the Bartons prepare to leave the island. So think about my tone of voice. I wasn't reading it as soft and as kind as I was before. It was more harsh. Listen to how I read it now. We have nothing to fear as long as we're not apart, Grant insists. We must realize that we have not only survived, but we have also become one. Knowing that nothing can destroy their closeness, the Bartons prepare to leave the island. Do you notice in that last paragraph, I was almost sounding a little bit sad? That definitely changed the tone of the story as I was reading. And now I'm going to go back and read it one more time to you, based on how I read it earlier today. Just regular voice. Think about my tone and my mood as I'm reading this. We have nothing to fear as long as we're not apart, Gran insists. We must realize that we have not only survived, but we have also become one. Knowing that nothing can destroy their closeness, the Bartons prepare to leave the island. So I want you to think about that mood. It wasn't scary, it wasn't sad. It was cool, calm, collected, and somewhat happy. I want us to take a look at an anchor chart before I let you go today. We are going to be focusing this week on expression. Some of the things that we discussed today and that we talked about is we do not use the same tone of voice for everything that we read, okay? We want to change the way we read. Our tone of voice should match the mood of the passage. We can figure out or anticipate the mood from the title and other clues. We use the author or character's words to confirm their feelings. Reading with expression helps the passage sound right and make sense. We use pacing, pausing, inflection/intonation, and phrasing to read with expression. What I would do is I would invite you to just pause, and I would invite you just to take some time looking at this passage, and I would like you to just try to reread it to yourself using that same mood, tone of voice, and expression. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to delete all of the colorings here that I put on the paper. I'm not sure if there's an easier way, but as of right now, I'll just leave it. Go ahead and read this story again to yourself and just practice. Practice trying to figure out what tone of voice, what mood within the story makes my expression change as I read. Have a great day, fourth graders.